The world has had to grapple with a host of unprecedented events since the novel COVID-19, or as it's better known, coronavirus, became a thing. One could even say the coronavirus made the world stop spinning. The harshness of the lockdown protocols that have followed in the wake of the pandemic on the global economy have been particularly brutal in the United States of America. Most states in the Union have had to shut down economic activities for a long spell, and one can only imagine the devastation small businesses have been experiencing, especially in the hospitality industry, since the pandemic started. Against this backdrop, some argue that the measures deployed to protect citizens from the pandemic have proven to be more disastrous than the pandemic itself. Some believe the lockdown was the absolute preventative measure against the virus, and it bought the medical workers enough time to tackle the situation in a better way. On the other hand, some national stakeholders view the harm from a constitutional angle. They argue that the lockdowns only represent an indirect move by big government to create a generation of dependent citizens, using unconstitutional policies as a vehicle. What you make of these arguments notwithstanding, no one can reasonably dispute the fact that the restrictions on movement to control the virus has contributed to the number of people who expect the government to come through with some relief money. That's where the COVID-19 relief bill came into being. It all started with the CARES Act, the first round of COVID-19 relief spending. The arguments for and against lockdowns and other pandemic-induced restrictions are particularly lively, as one would expect among the lawmakers in both houses of Congress. Now, this channel does not represent the left or the right, or the middle, or anywhere in the spectrum for that matter. This channel tries to look at things from a different perspective so that we can better understand them. So let's start on the right side of the aisle. Some lawmakers, Republicans mostly, believe the government, with all its noble intentions, is not really in a position to deliver the assistance that citizens desperately need. They believe only the citizens, acting in their enlightened self-interest, can pursue and achieve their happiness. And the US Constitution appears to revolve around that awareness. The awareness that nothing trumps individual responsibility in a free society. They add that the present lockdowns and pandemic relief spending are not effective ways of restarting the economy. In their opinion, the only way out of the economic challenge sweeping the nation is by reopening the economy. They believe the handouts being doled out by the government, without regard for the national deficit, won't do much for the citizens, and the greater evil is the erosion of the independent spirit of the American people. A school of thought that also finds the current state of affairs counterintuitive among the political classes are those who believe there's nothing scientific about the lockdowns at all. They argue that despite the mainstream media's promotion of public hysteria, the facts don't support the kind of restrictions mostly deployed in Democratic strongholds. A sizable number of Democratic politicians have been caught flouting their own COVID-19 regulations. This school of thought argues that the government has unwittingly created a perverse incentive for bureaucrats to inflate the numbers of COVID-19 related deaths, because by doing so, they can count on the government sending more money their way. They say that according to some medical experts, the way hospitals test for COVID-19 is prone to error. But that's an argument that's a bit outside the scope of this video. Now let's switch to the left. On the other side of the debate are the Democrats, who believe that the pandemic-induced restrictions and stimulus spending represent a necessary sacrifice of the norm as the country is in the middle of a fight against a deadly pandemic. This group believes that every life counts, and the fact that people infected with the coronavirus have a 90% chance of recovery should not even be brought into this debate. These politicians believe that the pandemic has created a situation where the government has to take measures to protect the people and incentivize them to respect the government restrictions, hence the stimulus checks. They contend that most of those who argue that the government is making a mountain out of a molehill in a manner that increases its powers are just interested in promoting their preferred political rhetoric, without so much as a single thought for the actual well-being of the citizens. They also add that those who claim there is nothing as permanent as a temporary government measure are only interested in whipping up primordial sentiments. They conclude that it's nothing but a mix of scare tactics and cynicism, presented as gospel truths. This battle of views has found adequate expression among lawmakers in the two houses of Congress. This reality explains why the recently enacted Omnibus legislation on government spending was a controversial ordeal. Loads of Republican lawmakers could not stand an initial bill overwhelmingly supported by Democrat lawmakers. Republican lawmakers argued that the initial bill contained more wasteful handouts for Democrat-supported pet projects and other special interest priorities with little provisions for the citizens in actual need of a stimulus check. For that, and many other reasons, the initial bill was held hostage, as no party was interested in giving an inch before the 2020 general election. It is to be noted that the bill which passed on December 21st is constantly dubbed as the COVID relief bill, but it isn't. It is a part of an omnibus spending bill, a large package of smaller spending bills, called the House Amendment to the Senate Amendment to H.R. 133, and called the Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2021. The COVID-19 relief legislation, worth about $900 billion, is part of it. The other pieces are worth $1.4 trillion, making for a total of $2.3 trillion. After the general election, in light of all the pandemic-induced restrictions on businesses and individuals, there was a renewed interest among the lawmakers to pass COVID relief legislation. A $900 billion economic relief bill was brought before Congress, and Rand Paul, a Republican senator, made deeply criticizing remarks about it. For what it's worth, the remark did go viral in the country, and some pundits believe it's because a considerable number of people identified with the concerns the senator spotlighted in his remarks. The highlight of Senator Rand Paul's remark was the criticism he made of his fellow Republican senators' interest in voting for a piece of legislation he characterized as a bunch of socialist spending. The senator voiced his disappointment on how no one, most Republican lawmakers included, seemed to care about the nation's ballooning deficit. He accused his Republican colleagues of acting as if though money grew on trees. He lamented the fact that the nation was taking on debts unborn generations will have to negotiate within their lifetime. He argued that the way out of the economic conundrum was to simply open up the economy safely and not throwing inadequate amounts at citizens. After all was said and done, Senator Rand Paul and 5 other Republican senators were the only Republicans who voted against the measure. A confirmation that the political theater is largely becoming a place where a lot is said, but little logical results are actually accomplished. One other telling controversy that popped up before Congress voted on the COVID-19 relief bill revolved around the voluminous nature of the bill itself, and the little time that lawmakers had to actually study its content before voting on it. In what appeared to be a first, Senator Ted Cruz found himself agreeing with Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. In a tweet, Senator Cruz signified that he identifies with the views espoused by AOC on the absurdity of asking lawmakers to vote on a more than 5,000-page bill, with only a few hours made available for studying the provisions of the bill. The senator added the hashtag Congress is broken to his tweet on the issue, in what appears to be a statement of his disillusionment with the prevailing culture in Congress. After the bill was passed with an overwhelmingly bipartisan vote, President Trump remarked that the bill was, in his words, a disgrace. He threatened not to sign the bill because it allocated more money to special interest blocks and comparatively a very small amount of $600 in direct payment to citizens. The president requested that Congress increase direct payment to $2,000 and get rid of what he characterized as wasteful spending. Political analysts noted that the president's refusal to sign the 5,593-page bipartisan legislation could result in a partial government shutdown. They also noted that the refusal could have negatively impacted the recipients of the unemployment benefits and other related benefits. However, President Trump later, unexpectedly, signed into law the Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2021, providing $1.4 trillion for the fiscal year, ending on September 30th, 2021. Initially, the White House did not explain the president's change of heart, and while the White House remained silent, some pundits argued that the president folded to avert a government shutdown. Later on, the White House released a statement where the president announced the issues that informed the change of his initial stance. He noted that he signed the bill to protect unemployment benefits, stop evictions, help airline workers get back to work, finance vaccine distribution, and other crucial reasons. While the $900 billion relief package provided for a round of $600 direct payments to adults and children, The president added that he will send a red-lined version of the bill back to Congress, demanding the deletion of what he considers to be wasteful spending. He also noted that his demands will be accompanied by the formal rescission request to Congress, insisting that certain funds be removed. The president noted that the bill contains $85.5 million for the assistance to Cambodia, $134 million to Burma, $1.3 billion for Egypt and the Egyptian military, $25 million for democracy and gender programs in Pakistan, $505 million to Belize, Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, and Panama. There are also funds including $25 million for Asian carp, $3 million for poultry production technologies, $566 million for construction projects at the FBI, $40 million for the Kennedy Center, a performing arts complex in Washington, D.C., and more than $1 billion for museums and galleries in the capital. What do you think about Congress finding plenty of money for foreign countries, lobbyists, and special interests, while providing the bare minimum to the American people who need it? Share your opinion by writing in the comment section below. We would love to hear your perspective.